Dr. R.A. Mashelkar, a national research professor and the present president of Global Research Alliance. Dr. Mashelkar is also a member of Scientific Advisory Board of Microsoft. He has been the former Director General of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. In the year 1998, he was awarded with prestigious J.R.D. Tata Corporate Leadership Award. He is the director on boards of India's leading companies, from Tata to Reliance. 34 global universities have bestowed honorary doctorates upon him. Dr. Mashelkar has transformed CSIR into world's largest chain of laboratories. He has won over 50 awards, including the Honorable Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan, in recognition of his contribution to nation building. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. R.A. Mashelkar.
Our Chairman, Mr. Mittal, Mr. Milind Kamble, members of Indore Management Association, distinguished President, distinguished audience, and my young friends. My mind goes back to 2007. Exactly a decade ago. I was 10 years younger, and I remember receiving the most prestigious Lifetime Achievement Award. It was an incredible feeling, and the same incredible feeling I'm getting today. It's wonderful to be here in this great city. My congratulations are being among the top 20 smart cities in India. In fact, you're already smart. I don't know why you have been chosen as among the top 20 smart. I think it should be the smarter city, if you ask. And may I also say that this magnificent auditorium is the smartest auditorium in which I have spoken in India, I can tell you that. The technology empowerment that you have created and the chance that you are giving to an articulation of a speaker, it's a phenomenal experience. I think each one of you should come and stand here and get that sense of how you feel. I feel tremendous today. So thank you very much for doing me the honor. The subject today is on reinventing growth, and you heard two absolutely brilliant speeches by our Minister Piyush Goyal and my very, very dear friend Deepak Parekh. They were absolutely incredible, very inspiring, but at the same time, very informative, insightful. I am neither a politician, nor an economist, nor a financial wizard. I deal with science, technology, and innovation. So what I'm going to do is to talk to you about something about innovation-led growth. They say growth is life. That is correct. Because something that does not grow doesn't have life. Agreed. But finally, if you make innovation as a way of life, then you can have innovation-led growth. Okay? And how can we make that? How can innovation contribute to growth? That is going to be my central theme. Now, I must warn you that I already have the reputation of being what they call as a dangerous optimist, Durdamya Ashawadi, all right? So my feet are on the ground, but I always look into the sky, and therefore I might portray an India to me of our dream, which I may not see in my lifetime. You will see it in your lifetime. I remember year 2000 when I was the president of Indian Science Congress in Pune. we had this spectacular meeting with 5,000 scientists, the Prime Minister coming, Nobel laureates coming, and so on. And that was the first year of the new millennium. So I had talked about a new Panchashil for the new millennium. I believe that Panchashil is evergreen, and that will be even valid in the next millennium. And what was that? It was child-centered education, woman-centered family, human-centered development, knowledge-centered society, and innovation-centered India. Right? Linking the child, the woman, the human, the society, and the nation. And that is where I would like to begin, basically. Because I'm supposed to not only talk about this subject, but what is the roadmap that we should follow, what are the principles we should have, what are the actions that we should take. Among these, education, to me, is absolutely fundamental. You know, there was a discussion a year ago about what is the most powerful equation that, has been set up by any scientist, anywhere in the world. So somebody got up and said, oh, it is obvious, Newton's law, F equal to ma, force equal to mass into acceleration. All of us have learned that in the school, isn't it? Somebody else got up and said, no. It can't be that. It has to be Einstein. E equal to mc square. Right? E is energy, m is mass, c is the velocity of light. I was sitting quiet. Somebody came to me and he said, well, you are not saying anything. I said, no, not Newton, not Einstein. None of that. So he said, what? Then which equation? I said, the most powerful equation, eternal, is E equal to F. So they said, what is E, what is F? I said, E is education and F is future. So when we talk about the future India, and that is the subject that has been given to me, I must begin by this equation, as a scientist. And then you will say, well, if you are a scientist, then you not only propose an equation, you prove the equation. So you must prove it. So I'll prove it to you. What happened was 2011, 11 October was the date, when American Academy of Arts and Science honored the fellows of the academy who were selected. This academy was set up by Benjamin Franklin and George Washington in the year 1780. Who are its fellows? Well, from Winston Churchill to Charles Darwin, and from Einstein to Nelson Mandela, there have been fellows of this academy. 200 Nobel laureates have been members. So you might say that is fine. None of them are Indians. Who are the Indians? So there have been 7 fellows so far, from 1780. And whoever becomes fellow signs in the book where all these great people have signed. That's a special honor. So on that day, the 6th and the 7th signed in that book. You know who was 6th? Ratan Tata. And you know who was the 7th who signed after Ratan Tata? It was Raghunath Mashelkar, me. Now that's not so important. What is important is that, and that is where the equation is proved, by the way, because you will ask me, how does that prove the equation? I was born in a very poor family. My mother brought me up. My father died when I was 6. I walked barefoot until I was 12. My mother came to Mumbai and she was doing actually menial jobs to bring me up. I was the only child. 2 meals a day was a challenge. I studied under street lights. Very hard life, basically. And when the 11th standard, SSC used to be 11th standard at that time, Maharashtra State, in 1,35,000 students, I had stood 11th. But still I was going to stop my education and take up a job because I couldn't bear the pain of my mother, And then Sir Dorab Tata Trust came and gave me 60 rupees per month as a scholarship. And for 6 years, by the way. Okay? it was that which made my education possible. It was that because of which I am standing in front of you today. Now, the interesting issue was that in 1960, when this was happening, if somebody had said that in 50 years' time, you and the head of the family of Tatas will sign one after the other in that magical book, I would not have believed it. And how did that magic happen? That magic happened because of the power of the equation E equal to F. Education is equal to future. I was able to build my future thanks to education. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about future India will depend upon the education. And it is not just right education with values. It is not just about developing the ability, it is developing the attitude. Not much emphasis is being given on developing the attitude part of it. It's not about just developing mind, it is about developing mindset, so as to say. Our minds are moving into the 21st century, but our mindsets are somewhere old. For example, somebody told me, he said, simple puzzle for you. 1 Japanese plus 1 Japanese, how many? I said, 2. He said, no. There are 11. 1 plus 1 equal to 11. And then he asked me, what is 1 Indian plus 1 Indian? I said, obviously 2. He said, no, 0. 0 because they eliminate each other. Team India, my India, India first. Where do you see that? That's the mindset issue. All right? But the same Indian mind had said Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, centuries ago. So our Indian mind was already ahead, not only 21st century, 31st century, 41st century, but Indian mindset is where it is. And therefore, the fundamentals of education will have to be on both ability as well as attitude. A lot of this thing that Deepak Bhai mentioned, basically things getting stuck, so as to say, I think it is that, all right? I think India first, India matters to me, I want to matter to India more. My India, I think, is going to be the key in moving that, and our children and these young people will have to be sort of educated on that. They already have it, by the way. I will prove it to you a little later. The other issue that I want to state at the outset, and Deepak Bhai was absolutely right when he said, it is the young who are going to make the future. It is these young people. Honestly, I'm telling you. India's greatest comparative advantage is the youth, the Yuva Shakti. Okay? I'll tell you about some personal anecdotes so that you will realize what I'm talking about. In terms of what they are able to do. I happen to be the chairman of National Innovation Foundation, which deals with grassroots innovation. What does it mean? It is based on a fundamental assumption that 1.25 billion Indians does not mean 1.25 billion mouths, but 1.25 billion minds. And each one can actually innovate. And in that context, just 3 months ago, we finished something that was very interesting, children and innovation. So what we did was that from 3rd standard to 12th standard, we invited innovative ideas from across the nation. Around 26, 27 states participated. We got 26,000 plus ideas, and out of that, we chose 30. The President of India himself came and gave away the awards in Ahmedabad. And it is incredible. There are 2 things that struck me, by the way, I must tell you. That the children, their ideas, you might feel they must be on the next super bike or super car or this, that, etc. No. They were looking at our societal problems, and they did not want to be a part of a problem. They wanted to be always a part of a solution. All right? One of the awards went to one young girl who was in a running train and she went to a toilet and there was no latch. So what did she do? She did not remember that problem. She actually designed a portable latch which you can carry and which can use anywhere. That is what I mean by attitude. Not being a part of a problem, but a part of a solution. There's another girl, Shalini from Bihar, 13-year-old. She saw her grandfather walk up the stair with great difficulty. So she designed a walker where the two front legs were spring-loaded, basically, and there was some other complex mechanism to make it even go up the stair. And we used our engineers, NIF engineers, and created a prototype. And can you believe it? That 13-year-old girl's innovation has been licensed to a company which is going to manufacture 10,000 walkers this year. A 13-year-old girl from Bihar. And you know what is her father's income? About 1 lakh per year. You know how much is the income she is going to get, that 13-year-old? 1 lakh per month. So when I see such children, you know, not wanting to be a part of a problem but a part of a solution and bringing innovations, and not innovations on the next super bike, but on the problems that we all live with, I think that is where India is actually arriving. I am therefore very happy to see lots of initiatives that are being taken in order to build this fundamental of not only education but innovation. I remember President Obama about 7-8 years ago had said that education and innovation are going to be the currencies of the 21st century. I go one step forward and say education in innovation and innovation in education are going to be the currencies of the 21st century. And why innovation in education? Because with the digital world coming, digital way of life is the only way of life that we are going to have, basically. And the kind of power that we have of digital learning is going to reach out, not just in cities, but in villages and so on and so forth. So we'll have to change the pedagogy. We'll have to allow our children to do many things. I happen to be the co-chairman of the Maharashtra State Innovation Council, and what we are trying to do is to promote innovation in schools, even in rural villages. We are creating what are called as Tod Fod Jod centers. All right? Because even our toys are static. They just look at you like this. Whereas you will see that ability to break, join, this, that, etc. are very important. I think the fundamental issue, therefore I'm saying, is that let us lay, when we talk about future India, these fundamentals absolutely right. The second thing, I come to this age group now. And what I feel very enthused about, and Deepak Bhai made reference to Startup India. Startup India was mentioned earlier. And I must say our Prime Minister has really set the country blazing with this idea of, you know, he had charged Startup India, and that is absolutely wonderful. I basically, and as Deepak Bhai said, we are the youngest startup nation, we are the third fastest, etc., etc. What he said is absolutely right. But there is something beyond it, which is the attitude of the young people. I said ability and attitude. And I'm laying a lot of emphasis today on attitude, by the way. Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Satya Nadella became the CEO of Microsoft. Sundar Pichai became the CEO of Google. So some Shivam will also come. Maybe he will take over Apple. Maybe he will be from one of you, who knows. That's wonderful. But you know, like Kaval Rekhi was saying on the other day to my friend Devin Takar from IIT Bombay, he said in 1967, our dream was to somehow or the other go to the US. That's it. And in a discussion with young people, this topic came up. They said, yes, sir. Our emphasis was on just going to US. Then it changed. Our ambition changed to getting a job in Microsoft or Google. Then having seen this Satyam Sundaram, their ambition is now to become the CEO of Microsoft and Google. But somebody got up and said, no sir, we don't believe in that. We want to create our own Google, our own Microsoft in India, here. I think that's a great news for me. Ability, all of them have. Attitude is important. Opportunity is important. Country is not deficit of talent, by the way. You know, I still remember Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee, when he was the Prime Minister, he used to say, IT is India's future. IT as in information technology. I used to also say IT is India's future, but not as in information technology. IT as in Indian talent here. All right? So talent, no issue at all. But what are the key things that we require in order to build future India? It is talent, technology, and trust. Talent, technology, and trust. Trust in these young people, I think, is extraordinarily important. Let me give you an anecdote. About 7-8 years ago, Bill Gates had come to India. And there was a dinner come discussion organized with him. And I was there, Anand Mahindra was there, 2-3 other people were there, Nandan Nilekani was there, I still remember. 2.5 hours. And there, Bill Gates told us an interesting story. He said, Harvard University, from where he dropped out, they had invited him to give the commencement address. And there, in his speech, he declared himself as the most successful dropout from Harvard, which he was. But then he went forward and narrated one incident in his life when he was very young. He said, those were early days of computers. So they were a company in Albuquerque, they were going to manufacture computer hardware. So he said, if they want hardware, then, they will require software. So he phoned them up and offered software, half expecting that they will keep the phone down. Young fellow, starting computer days, and young fellow, 19, 20-year-old, just offering sort of software. We'll believe it. You know what they told him? We are not ready. Come after a month. They said, come after a month. And you know what Bill Gates told us? Thank God they said, come after a month. I did not have the software that I was offering them. But he had the trust in himself. And that company had a trust in him that he will deliver. And in the young. And therefore, this youth power that we all talk about, I think it's an important issue of giving them an opportunity. It bothers me. On the other day, Shankaracharya, who was former economic advisor, came and gave a lecture in Pune International Center on the same topic. It did not say reinventing growth, but it had something to do with growth. And he was talking about the fact that we cannot do with jobless growth. It has to be job-led growth, something that came up in the morning also. And then he gave us statistics which appeared in Indian Express, 17 September 2015. I picked it up from his speech. It says there were 23 lakh applications for 368 peons posts in Uttar Pradesh. And you know what it included? 250 PhDs, 25,000 postgraduates, and 1.52 lakh graduates. That's not all. That's not all. So it is not talent deficit, it is opportunity deficit. And I think that we have to take extraordinarily seriously. Otherwise, the so-called demographic benefit that we talk about, advantage that we talk about, will just grow away. So India is always a matter of contradiction. On one hand, these are the young people who said we'll build Microsofts here, and on the other hand, there are people, including PhDs, who are applying for that job. I think that needs to be fixed. I think these are ground realities. One can't really shun away from them, and I've just quoted from what I have read from our former economic advisor. There's another issue that is very important, because if you say innovation-led growth is going to be important, then where does India stand in terms of innovation? There is what is called as a Global Innovation Index, okay, which is published every year. 143 countries get assessed on various things, and then finally they publish. You know what was India's rank in 2011? 62. Following year, you might feel it must have improved. No, 64. Following year, 68. Following year, 76. And last year, 83. 62, 64, 68, 76, 83. Why? On the other hand, our perception is that we are doing very well. We are improving. And which indeed we are. But remember, it's a race. We talk about innovation-led competitiveness, and others are running faster than us. I think that's very important. The other important point that we have to recognize is that they measure what could be measured, which is mainly focused on technological innovation. On the other hand, if you were to create a ranking on non-technological innovation, whether it is business model innovation, workflow innovation, system delivery innovation, organization innovation, India will be in the top 5, I can tell you that. In fact, I am on their international advisory board, and I have taken it with them. I said, either you call it Global Technological Innovation Index, or you include also this part of the innovation, because that is very, very critical. And we have to now understand that when we talk about innovation, our innovation has to be innovation which is leading to accelerated sort of growth, but it has to be also total innovation, end-to-end innovation. And I will just give you 3 examples to say why needs to be total innovation, because we are talking about growth, we are talking about India's future. First example I will take will be mobiles. Very proudly we say we have 1 million mobiles, 1 billion mobiles today. That's wonderful. How did it happen? It happened because of innovation, but because of total innovation. First was policy innovation by the government. What was that? Voice for internet, mobile, accepted, BSNL, deregulation, whole range of things that were done. But even if that was done, and if the handsets were very expensive, and the call rates were very expensive, nothing would have happened, isn't it? Then handsets became cheap. Technological innovation. Who did that? Nokia, Ericsson, right? They did that and brought down from $250 to $25. Fine. Even if it was $25, and supposing it was given for $0 and distributed to 1 billion people, do you think they would have used it? If the call rates were 10 cents per minute or 8 cents per minute as they are in the US, they would not have, isn't it? Because $2 per day, the income of majority of these poor people who are using this. $2 is 200 cents, 10 cents per minute, 20-minute call in a day, and your earnings are gone. But then there came a business model innovation. You remember Dhirubhai Ambani saying phone call at the cost of a postcard? And then Airtel. And those of you who want to sort of read this in great detail, please please read the paper C.K. Prahlad and me have written in Harvard Business Review. It is in July, August. It is called Innovation's Holy Grail, by the way. And the theme of that is getting more from less for more. That means more from less for more people, not just more profit. Okay? Getting more from less is part of the innovation, isn't it? We do it all the time. The mainframe computer used to occupy the size of this room. Today we carry 1 million times more power than in our hand. That is more from less. But is it, my smartphone, I kept it out. But supposing I pulled it and said, is it available for, you have made more profit out of it, more from less for more profit, but is it available for more people? Answer is no. How do you make it available also for more people? All right? How do you balance that out? That's the theme. And by the way, that paper now is ranked among the top 10 must-read papers on innovation, because it describes how a great country like India had scarcity on one hand and aspiration on the other hand, and combination of scarcity and aspiration could be a dangerous combination. You know, that's what that paper actually said. So those call rates were brought down from 10 cent to 0.01 cent per minute, the lowest call rates, as Deepak Bhai said. So it was a combination of policy, technology, and business model that actually worked. And if you don't, then things will not work out. So I think the mantra that we must have is a very simple one. The I in India must not stand for inhibition, must not stand for imitation, number one. It must stand for innovation, and as a system, we must do total innovation. Look at, I happen to be on the board of Tata Motors, and therefore I know the full story of Nano. Very inspiring story, by the way. The way Ratan conceived it and the way we went for a 1 lakh car, etc. Superb. I don't know how many people know that it has 76 patents, by the way. It is so innovative. Okay? But what happened? It was a classical case of affordable excellence. Right? It was affordable because it was 1 lakh, and excellence because it was a technological marvel, by the way, in terms of the ingenuity that went into it to get those 76 patents. Such was the innovation. But in that, the mistake that we made was, out of that affordable excellence, excellence should have been at the front end while marketing it, and affordable should have been at the back end, isn't it? We put affordable at the front end, and it became cheap car, and nobody wants a cheap car. Especially this generation, they don't want. They want excellence. And therefore that innovation, okay, and there are so many others, it was a combination of all that could have been. And that product is actually fantastic, and it is being now relaunched, and I'm sure it will be a great success. But this gives you, from a business perspective, because there are a lot of business people here, an idea about how all this combination needs to come. At a national level, we need to sort of look at this. You know, Prime Minister Modi has launched many things which have been absolutely trailblazing, I would say, and one of them is Swachh Bharat. You know, to give that clarion call from Red Fort, you know, it's something incredible. The government of India has created what is called as a Swachh Bharat Technology Expert Committee, a high-powered committee. I happen to be chairman. There are 19 members, by the way. Okay. So what we are looking at are technologies that are scalable, sustainable, affordable, rapidly deployable, because our Prime Minister has given 2019 some really tough targets, so we can't be, and socially acceptable. 5 criteria. Okay? And I'm very happy to say that we are moving very well in terms of building toilets. Our target was 40,000 per day, we are doing 50,000. So we are exceeding toilets. That's fantastic. But the challenge now is it's not about building toilets, it's about using toilets. It's not about toilet engineering. It's about social engineering. It's about system engineering. And therefore social innovation, social behavioral change will have to be now integrated at a national level. You know, it's very interesting, by the way. I was talking to a Magsaysay Award winner who works in rural villages. Her name is Mrs. Mishra. She told me something interesting. She said in that village, there were toilets, there was water, nothing was missing, but the women will not use it. So she got a social scientist and tried to find out what was missing. And what she discovered was very interesting, that in the morning, apparently in that village, the women did the thing in the morning collectively, because that was the time for social interaction, where you talked about your mother-in-law or whatever, you know. And that was being deprived because they were put into cubicles. So she said, all right, I'll do an innovation. And what was the innovation she did? Semicircular row of toilets where everything above this was open. So they could converse with each other. And you cannot believe it. The use that was 0% became 100%. I'm not saying that this should be replicated everywhere. All that I'm saying is that we had the technology for the toilet, we had the construction technology for the toilet, we had water, we had everything. But the social behavioral issue, social innovation issue, we missed out. I just give you 3 examples just to illustrate whether it was Tata Nano, whether it was mobile, which is a successful one, or whether it is Swachh Bharat, what we'll have to do. And therefore, this total innovation concept is what I think India needs to actually move on. Now, in terms of innovation, coming back to the startup issue, I'm absolutely delighted that this is happening. I was with my friend, director of IIT Bombay on the other day. He said, today, 1 out of 4 graduates who comes out of IIT Bombay wants to be a technopreneur. I said, what would have been 10 years ago? He said 0. Nobody wanted. So everybody wants to be now a job creator, not job seeker. And I think that's a great news for India, actually. And you will be hearing Milind a little later about his spectacular sort of efforts on including the excluded. That's what we call as inclusive innovation. Because we require not only total innovation, inclusive innovation, which includes everybody, and I'm sure he will mesmerize you with his lecture. But coming back to that, you might ask me that if India has to have a leadership position, in what area of innovation it would have a leadership position? I would say it would be in affordable excellence. Excellence, affordable excellence, inclusive innovation. Why do I say that? Look at Mars orbiter mission. We did it in $74 million. You know how much US took? $671 million. Almost 10 times more. Okay? And both of us are circling the Mars. Now you might say, oh, that must be because our manpower cost is cheaper. No, sorry. Manpower cost doesn't play any role in that at all. It is the way we went to Mars, basically, that made it happen. This is a brilliant example of affordable excellence. Excellence, because unless you have technological excellence, you can't reach Mars, and affordable, which is 10 times less. So my mantra, and by the way, lots of business leaders are here, anything that you do, give a challenge of 10x. How can you do it 10 times cheaper and 10 times better? And they will meet it. I can tell you, they will meet it. And I must tell you, I happen to be chairman of innovation councils now in number of industrial enterprises where I'm on the board of. I'm chairman of Reliance Innovation Council, chairman of Thermax Innovation Council, KPIT Technology Innovation Council, and so on. Because there is no use just public institutions doing innovation. Industry. The I in industry must also stand for innovation. And Mukesh Bhai is one of the greatest innovators that I have met. And we had a recent conversation, not recent, about 2 years ago. Mukesh Bhai was talking about leapfrogging. And Reliance has always been doing leapfrogging ahead. So I said, Mukesh Bhai, I don't believe in leapfrogging. So he said, what? I said, I believe in pole vaulting. The size of the pole determines how far you will land. Frog can leap that much. And he loved it. And it was his idea to create a program called Beyonder, individuals who go beyond. So we are building now innovation leaders who have the capacity to do pole vaulting. In fact, we have symbolism. I'm not making a formal presentation, otherwise I would have shown you. And therefore, out of a lack of people, we have picked up those who are capable of going beyond. I think the kind of innovation that we need to have is that. Because these are the innovators who will be able to deal with everything, including your VUCA word, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. And how do you deal with this? I mean, you see Reliance's performance this quarter. 39% quarter to quarter up, previous year. And as you have seen, whether it is $27 a barrel or $110 a barrel, margins. How do you survive a volatile, uncertain, complex world? It requires innovation, because here is a magnificent refinery, where any crude around the world can be actually refined. In fact, the story goes that when the original designers came and asked Dhirubhai, which crude would you like us to, which specification would you like us to have this thing? He said, no, any crude in the world, So the point I'm trying to make is this ability to leapfrog, pole vault, go beyond, not incremental innovation, but disruptive innovation. Like Aadhaar is a disruptive innovation. Janadhan Yojana is a disruptive innovation. And mobile has become a disruptive innovation, because we have moved from a time where, when I came in 1976, there was 6 years that I took to get a landline. And somebody has said we used to do puja and party if you got a telephone. From that, everybody has. So I think that accelerated, out of the box, disruptive and not incremental innovation is what India needs in order to create those growth rates. 2 more points I'll make, and then I will stop. The first is that in terms of leadership, as I said, affordable excellence is one that we can have leadership on. In my mother's name, I have created what is called as a Anjani Mashelkar Inclusive Innovation Award. This is the 5th year of the award. That award is given for inclusion. Because making high technology work for the rich, very easy. Making low technology work for the poor, very easy. Making high technology work for the poor is a challenge. So that is one. The second, I'm not a great believer in best practices. I'm a believer in next practices. And it is time that India creates next practices which the world follows, rather than our following the best practices that the others follow. So the award is given for that. This year's award went to one Rahul Rastogi. And I'm illustrating that point because the point that I want to make is the direction that innovation should have in India for building the future India. So his father had a heart issue. And in the middle of the night, he had to take him out for ECG and so on. He's a smart guy, electronics wizard, working for Samsung. So he said, why do I have to do that? Can I not create a portable ECG? And he created a portable ECG. I'm carrying that. It is here. Now he got this award on 17 November because 17 November is the death anniversary of my mother. So we give it every year. What does it do? You have to put your 2 fingers here, 2 thumbs here. Then there are 3 actions you have to take. 1 here above the heart, and then 3, each 15 seconds. And then somebody on a smartphone would have downloaded an app that he has created. This goes directly, to that. So that means your doctor, basically whoever it is, he sees your ECG within less than 5 minutes, wherever he is. Today you go and want to take your ECG, you will take anywhere from 100 to 900 rupees, depending upon where you go. This will not take you more than 2 rupees, less than 2 rupees. Can you just understand? So it is not just affordability, extreme affordability, but excellence, because this has just 30% is hardware, by the way. 70% is the smartest software that you can see. Now he's building the second version. The issue is, this is an invention. It's not innovation as yet. Innovation is a successful exploitation of a new idea in practice. And therefore, when this will be produced in millions, then this becomes an innovation. Okay? And India's failure has been from invention to innovation. So here is a classic case. I don't believe in what are called as events. because you celebrate on 17 November, award him and then forget about it. I'm now linking him to venture capital companies, Tata Trust, a whole range of people, so that the 2.0 version that he wants to bring can come up, and whatever manufacturing, etc., that he needs to do can get up. I think these are the kind of innovations. Now, tell me, which part of the world will not want it? Isn't it? There is another example. The third award that we gave was to Mishkin Ingaware, who was just 28. They are all in that age group, by the way. Okay? That's the power. I told you about children, now I'm telling you about this group. Okay? Mishkin Ingaware went to villages, and what did he find? He found that, the women were dying of anemia. Why? Because there are low levels of hemoglobin. But why were they not detected? Because they wouldn't give their blood. They thought they were giving something precious. So he said, fine, don't give your blood. I'll do it without taking your blood, non-invasive. And he found by Googling that nobody in the world had done it. He said, I will do it. That's our next generation, by the way. Nobody in the world has done it, I will do it. Making impossible possible is their business, by the way, now. Okay? And he created this by using high technology. I will use some jargon: photoplethysmography, photospectrometry, advanced software for photon scattering, and so on, Touch HB. And I remember Anu Aga giving the award, and he came dramatically on the stage, put it across her finger, and said, 12.1, take care. You can just imagine, you can do entire screening of entire villages. No woman in India has to die of anemia, basically. Yeah. So therefore, I think these are the innovations that are actually sort of moving forward, and that is the one where India is going to take a leap forward, which will create a better India. The final point, because without reading I knew what the message was, is growth has to be job-led growth, inclusive growth, green growth, connected growth, because we are talking about the sort of billion mobile, and most importantly, non-linear growth. Okay? That's what Deepak Bhai was talking about, isn't it? When he gave us the figures and said it took 60 years till 2007 to become 1 trillion, but only 8 years. So I'd like to end my speech by giving you a little story about, I was asked, what is my dream for India? My dream for India is a lilies in the pond on the 26th day. Now you would say, what is lilies in the pond on the 26th day? You know, there is this pond where there are lilies, and they have the habit of doubling up every day. So on day 2, they are twice on day 1. Day 3, they are twice on day 2. Now here is a puzzle for all of you. On 29th day, on the 30th day, it is full. So on what day will it be half full? 29th day. So on 28th, it will be quarter. 27, it will be 1/8. And 26, it will be 1/16. What is 1/16? 6%. So if you visit that pond on that day, you will feel 94% of it is empty. So you will say, you give it up. But you don't know, those lilies in the pond are something very special. You know, they know how to grow non-linearly. And therefore, if you go there in 4 days' time, the pond will be full. That's my dream of my India. And I want to see that India, being built. And my friends, my young friends, that is going to be your challenge. This non-linear growth, innovation-led growth, inclusive innovation-led growth, so that everyone is included, nobody is excluded, and accelerated growth. And then we'll reach that destination of an India which will be right up there in the Committee of Nations. Thank you very much.